You draft the text, stare at it for a second, and then delete it. You decide to stay home instead of going to the party. That decision brings an immediate wave of relief. But the next morning, the anxiety is still there, and often a little heavier. We are going to break that pattern by building a specific action plan to counter the behaviors that keep us stuck. Over the next 5 minutes, we'll pinpoint exactly how your brain tries to dodge uncomfortable feelings, and we'll draft an alternative action for the next time it happens. Grab a pen and a piece of paper. Draw a chart with 3 columns. Label the first one emotion, the second current behavior, and the third alternative action. Creating this physical map right now, while you're calm, is the only reliable way to keep yourself from falling back into old habits when a strong emotion takes over later. Step 1. Think of a recent situation that triggered an uncomfortable feeling for you. Maybe it was social anxiety or frustration at work. Write that down in the first column. Now, identify exactly what you did to manage or escape that feeling, and put that in the second column. If you felt anxious about a gathering, maybe you stayed home and watched television. Our coping mechanisms can feel highly specific to our own lives, but psychologists have found they actually fall into one of 5 predictable categories. This chart shows those categories. First are emotion-driven behaviors, actions naturally tied to the emotion itself, like snapping at a loved one when you're stressed. Next is overt avoidance, which is completely steering clear of a situation, like skipping a party. Then there are the quieter strategies. Subtle avoidance is showing up to the party but hiding on your phone to avoid talking. Cognitive avoidance means distracting your brain entirely, trying to force a stressful thought out of your head by staying busy. Finally, we have safety signals. These are items or even people you bring along just to feel secure, like carrying a water bottle everywhere or insisting a specific friend attends an event with you. By putting a formal label on your specific habit, you turn an unconscious reflex into a clear, tangible problem that you can actually solve. To know if your behavior is actually a problem, we apply the short-term versus long-term test to the action you wrote in column 2. When you engage in one of these behaviors, you get an immediate drop in distress. It feels exactly like scratching a severe itch. The relief is instant and highly rewarding, but that quick fix has a cost. Every time you avoid the emotion, you send a signal to your brain that the situation is genuinely dangerous. The underlying fear becomes reinforced, making the emotion even stronger the next time around. If you stay home from a party, your social anxiety drops for the evening, but you've just confirmed to your nervous system that parties are a threat. When the next invitation arrives, your anxiety will spike even higher than before. If your coping mechanism lowers your distress today, but keeps you locked in the same cycle month after month, it is maladaptive. It's time to build a countermeasure. That brings us to the third column, designing an alternative action. The most common trap here is writing down, "I will just stop doing it." You plan to simply sit there and not be anxious. But going from doing something to doing nothing is incredibly difficult. It's like trying to force yourself not to think about a white polar bear. The harder you try to suppress the thought, the more it dominates your mind. Instead of trying to do nothing, you have to choose to do something else. This table outlines how to select a concrete, opposing action to replace your usual habit. If your default behavior for sadness is to withdraw, your alternative action is to call a friend. If your anxiety causes you to over-prepare for presentations, your alternative action is to set a strict 1-hour time limit. Take a moment now and write down a specific, opposing action in the third column. Before we finish, we need to run your new action through the Scale It Back test. Look closely at what you wrote. Is the action you planned so extreme that you're going to be too terrified to actually follow through with it when the time comes? If your goal is to overcome social anxiety, striking up a conversation with a complete stranger might be a 10 out of 10 on your fear scale. So scale it back to a 5. Make your alternative action simply standing next to the stranger without talking at all. A scaled-back, slightly uncomfortable action that you actually perform is infinitely more effective at breaking the cycle than a perfect, ambitious plan that you end up avoiding. You now have a customized action plan. You've identified your specific trigger, recognized the behavior that keeps you stuck, and mapped out a concrete, achievable alternative. But you need to be prepared. When you finally execute this new behavior in the real world, it is not going to feel good. Your anxiety, guilt, or frustration is going to temporarily spike. That spike isn't a sign that the plan is failing. It is the physical sensation of your brain learning a new pattern. You are actively overriding an old maladaptive reflex. Keep that piece of paper on your desk, or take a photo of it so it's always on your phone. The next time the emotion hits, don't rely on willpower to figure out what to do. Just look at the chart and execute the plan.